Lights, camera, action. Hollering, sorry, Miss Jackson. No, I'm joking. uh, it- all right. Let's get it started.
Oh, so city, qué rico, papi.
All right, that's enough of that. I'm not getting copyrighted. Yeah. I'm gonna play it a little bit in the low volume. So if you can catch it, you can catch it. That's what she said. But yeah. Um this is a overdue stream, but I wanted to get into it real quick. So, when I'm overseas, there are, I always I catch black people. I don't go to the places that black people frequent purposefully. So I don't go to the Caribbean. I don't go to Africa. I don't go to Colombia or the DR. Although I do have plans to check out all of those places, they were just not on my bucket list. None of the places in Africa or the Caribbean or Latin America are on my bucket list. But I do plan on going, and between those three regions, in one of those places, I will be finding my secondary passport. I have not decided where. I'm going to do some consultation, either with, like an immigration lawyer or with an agency that's specifically made to help with the nomad lifestyle, and see what's up from there. Let me fix my chat filter so I can get all my messages. Hello to everyone just coming in. So this is gonna be a little bit of a different live stream. I'm talking about um, people from the Caribbean and Africa who go overseas and cosplay as Black Americans. Also, I want to touch on some of the stuff going on here in the U.S. as well while I'm at it. But again, hello to everyone in the live stream. So, like I said, when I'm overseas, there's a lot of folks who come in and like they I see some of them, they also live stream overseas. They do like street interviews, and they're talking to the local folks in Asia, places like that, like asking them what they think about dating black men or black women, um, how they feel about certain black American topics. And often it's the case that these folks aren't even black themselves. They're African or they're Caribbean. And, some people might say, well, same thing. No, it's not. It's not. We're delineating. And if anyone's trying to, yeah, anyone trying to play games, I have an AI moderator that will take care of you swiftly, like that chump just got handled. Also, I won't be doing any shout outs. If you want me to do a shout out for anything, whether you're trying to be funny or is legit, you're gonna drop a cash app. I don't do stuff for free. Neither does your mother. So if you want something, so you know, you're gonna have to pay. So if you want specific questions that have nothing to do with my topic, then drop a cash app. So anyway, um, like I said, when I'm in places like Philippines or Thailand or Taiwan or Japan or Indonesia, wherever, Malaysia, so on and so on, like you you get some folks from from the Caribbean or from the African continent, and by and large, most of them are cool. Most of them are cool. My issue is only when they come there and now they want to pretend to be black. And the reason I have a problem with that is because usually when they come to America, they don't want to be seen as black. They want to be their own separate identity, which is why we're already um, delineating from them. This is why black Americans are delineating from the immigrants from the continent of Africa and from the Caribbean. We're saying, no, we're foundational black American. You guys are immigrants, which is important. Like, look what's going on with all these Somali scammers. Like, and it's not even controversial at this point because something a lot of people don't realize here in the States or even overseas in Asia is that Somalians aren't even liked in Africa. They are not even liked in Africa. To be quite honest, the East Africans consider them troublemakers and to be kind of low class. I mean, of course they are. I mean, they hail from a failed state. On top of that, these morons are claiming that they have a 3,000-year-old um, connection to to the United States, particularly the Midwest. How? How, Sway? How do a bunch of illiterate fucking folks who can't even run their own country and by the way live on in East Africa, not West Africa, where there's the Atlantic that possibly possibly could be a link between the Americas and the African continent. No, they live in East Africa. They consider themselves Arabic, so that's the part of the world they hail from. Claiming that they have a 3,000-year claim to the land in America, particularly within the upper Midwest, which is where most of them have settled. So, surprise, not surprise, the place where many of them have migrated to in America is also the same place now they claim that they have a 3,000-year-old claim to the land. So, in any case, they're scammers, they're low class, they're not well received here in America, and they're not even well received in East Africa. And you got even one of them who's a fucking scammer in Asia. He was in Japan scamming and being obnoxious, harassing Japanese people until one guy stepped to him who obviously wasn't Japanese. He was actually Korean, I think, or Korean American, I believe. He actually stepped to him, told him stop trolling because his whole his whole shtick on his live stream is just trolling people, and I blame these platforms. I don't think YouTube allows it, but some of these platforms like Twitch and Kick allow for this low quality streaming where people can go viral and get big off of being trolls. And I don't mean the people who trolled in the comments and chat room section. I mean the people who are the streamers themselves, the content creators who go to different places and harass folks for fun to get clicks and likes and donations. We saw that with Logan Paul back in the day when he went to Japan and went to the suicide forest and tried to make fun of that. But it's this little Somali guy who I think got kicked out of Japan. Now he's in South Korea. He can't even leave South Korea because he's under arrest or he's wanted for it. Or actually, I don't think they've apprehended him yet. I think he's wanted for arrest, so he can't leave the country. So, and people, and people's like, this Black American. I'm like, oh no 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 no, Black Americans do not claim this tether. He is Somalian. He is not American. He is not black, and he's not American. He's an immigrant. He's a Somalian immigrant who came to America. He's not Black American at all. Black Americans are Americans. We're not immigrants. We don't have any other country or flag uh, to wave. So, in any case, I see these tethers, and that's what I'm going to call them. Not, and I want to be clear, not all African and Caribbean or Afro Latino immigrants are tethers. Not all of them are tethers. I want to make that very clear. Most of them are cool folks. However, Black Americans are still going to delineate ourselves from them for socio political reasons. For one, they take up resources that were supposed to go to Black Americans after the advent of slavery and then the Reconstruction, as those people were formally addressed in American documents as the freedmen. These immigrants are not freedmen. These are people who came to America largely in the 1970s after the passing of the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965. Or some of them came to America in the early 20th century, usually um, on the East Coast through either the New York tri-state area or Florida. And they're not black. First of all, most of them don't even claim to be black. So that's out of their very own mouths. They don't claim to be black until they're facing political persecution, and they're like, "Oh, we're part of you guys. We're part of the struggle too. You should guys should support us." Nah, fuck you. You wanted to be Somalian. You wanted to be Kenyan. You wanted to be Nigerian. You wanted to be Trinidadian. You wanted to be from. You wanted to be Bajan. You wanted to be Jamaican. You wanted to be from Panamania. So no, go be that. Mm-mm. We're not riding for you. So that's where I'm at with it. And again, for everyone in the chat room, um, again, I'm not taking questions that unless you putting it in the form of a super chat. So I'm just gonna ignore. I'm gonna ignore any question that's not germane to the topic, unless you put it in the form of a super chat. So anyway, um, so here we are, and like I said, being that I travel, not only do I see the BS in America, I see the BS overseas. Like I said, you got a bunch of Jamaicans, a bunch of Nigerians, a bunch of Ethiopians and Eritreans and Somalians and all that sort of stuff, acting, cosplaying as Black Americans when they're in Asia. Some and they're running scams too. So they're making black people look bad because they're scamming. And then once people be like, man, don't fuck with those once Asians themselves are saying, don't fuck with those Africans over there, then they try to say, oh well, we're black. No, you're not. Mm-mm. Nah, stay exactly what you are. You're Nigerian or whatever. So, for instance, if you guys are in Tokyo, or if you've been to Tokyo, you know what I'm talking about. And they have these little entertainment districts, like Kabukicho and uh, other places. I think I said that correctly. I always get the name of that place incorrectly, but it's an entertainment district within the Tokyo's city or ward of Roppongi. Um, and you have these little African spear chuckers out there trying to get people to come to these bars where they rip you off. So and it's largely and some of it's connected to like organized crime, not to the yakuza. The yakuza is largely a relic of the past now. Like they still exist, but they're not really active anymore because the law has pretty much came down so hardly on them that they can't really operate anymore. So in place of them, you have these young gangs, and these young gangs are doing stuff like running scams on tourists in parts of Tokyo where they have like either these little booty scratching African people come in and try to uh, bring you to these little sketchy bars, or they have some little beautiful like uh, door girl, and they'll ask you to come into this place and have you buy drinks, and then when they hand you the bill, like the is a they the prices skyrocket. Like for something that may have been like $100 bill, now it's like $3,000, and then they start, and then when you say I'm not paying that much, that's not what I bought. It doesn't cost that much. Then they start trying to squeeze you for money and say if you don't get the money, we're going to do this, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to you, or we're going to get the police. And trust me, you can go to the police in Japan and tell them that you've been scammed, but with all due respect to their police, they're not going to be very much help. I'm just saying. They're probably not going to be too much help. This is why this scam can run unabatedly. And you'll often, again, see these little African spear chuckers being used to sucker people in. So again, I I'm trying not to be mean, but pretty much anywhere where you see some little African folks trying to get you to do something in East Asia, it avoid them. You got a bunch of you also got a bunch of female African prostitutes in like Thailand and places like in other parts of Southeast Asia. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean. But if I go to Thailand, I don't want some nasty African pussy. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, I am not going to Pattaya, Thailand to fuck some African hoe. Now there are also Russian women in Pattaya. Now, of course, I mean everyone loves snow bunnies, even Dr. Umar. I don't care what he says. But yeah, people like people will smash Russians in Thailand, but they're not. But the ones who come to smash African women, I mean, some black men will do it, of course, because they're black men are going to be more likely to be attracted to African women than anyone else. But more than likely, they get guys who are European tourists or tourists from like China, stuff like that. That's typically that's probably their biggest patrons are like European tourists and Chinese tourists, something like that. But I'm not fucking some African bitch in Thailand. I came for that. I came for the I came for the rice bunnies. Literally, I came for the rice bunnies. But no, um, yeah. Um, not to mention, don't confuse them with some of the indigenous people. There are black indigenous people in parts of Southeast Asia, uh, in places like Vietnam and Thailand, and Cambodia, and the Philippines. In the Philippines, they call negritos, and there's three different subgroups of them, and so you'll see them in different parts of Southeast Asia. In Indonesia, you'll even see like a whole group of them out in the most remote parts of Indonesia, where I forgot that area. There's a bunch of them. I forgot the name of that island. And then you go farther into the Pacific Islands, like in Micronesia and Melanesia, you have these dark skinned black people with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's kind of cool, like to see that sort of DNA play out like that. That's kind of cool. Seeing these dark skinned people with blonde hair and blue eyes in the Pacific Islands. That's wild. But I'm not talking about the indigenous black people of Southeast Asia. I am referring to the Caribbean and African folks who come out there and then pretend to be black. And then a lot of them, supplement their lifestyle by being content creators, and they will ask locals questions about black people. And I'm like, why are you asking them questions about black people? You're not black. Stick to asking about shit dealing with Africans and Jamaicans. Like, don't ask them, do you like black people? What do you like about black men? Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's cool and all, but I don't want to see people asking them questions about black people when they're not part of that group. Now, if they specifically say, what do you think about black people in Africa? I'm cool with that. I'm That's fine. Like, hey, how do you feel about dating men from Nigeria and Ghana, places like that, or in East Africa, something? And that's fine if they want to ask them about stuff like that. But I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear their opinions on Black Americans. Someone says I'm not allowed to ask about Black people. That depends on what context you uh, that you mean. Can you ask about Black people? What I'm referring to are people from Africa and the Caribbean who go overseas to parts of like Asia and places like that, and they want to portray themselves as Black Americans, and they aren't, or they are content creators, and they ask the locals questions pertaining to the Black community, Black American community, foundational Black Americans, but they themselves aren't Black. So it's like I don't think they're in a position to be asking these locals about a culture that they're not a part of themselves. Sicilian, is that Sicilian? Says black people in America and black people in Africa are completely different people out of touch with their roots. Yes, yes, and no. That's not. Well, I'm just gonna say flatly no. I was trying to be diplomatic with you, but nah, I'm not. Yeah, we're not gonna go there. Black Americans are in touch with their roots. We've been in America for 400 plus years. Some of us have been here longer than that. You don't know anything about Black American history, so you're in no position to ask to say that we're out of touch with our roots. Our roots are here in America, buddy. So you don't know shit about America's history, do you? I'm pretty sure you don't. Black Americans have been in the beginning of the American colonies since 1619. And we've been in America even before the American colonies existed because we came here with the Spanish conquistadors. There was even a black African conquistador named Estevanico in the 1500s. So you have no position to be talking about our roots. You're not black, so you don't know what our roots are. No, I haven't been to Africa. It's, again, I do plan on going to it, but it's not on my bucket list. There's too many other countries I plan on going to first. I'm not I'm not a I'm not one of those Pan Africanist black people who desired going back to the continent. The continent is largely a shithole, so not really interested in going. But again, our roots are here in America. Like I don't I don't know how long someone has to be here before you can say these are our roots. Our roots are here in America. 400 plus years. I can trace my ancestry back to Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, the framer, one of the framers of the US Constitution, the writer of the Declaration of Independence. My family still lives near his Jeffersonian home in Charlottesville, Virginia. I know my roots. I've even done a DNA ancestry. If someone's lived in a country for 400 years, I think that's where their roots lie. This, yeah, most black Americans have been here since the very beginning. This is why black Americans have started calling themselves foundational black Americans. Some also use the term American descendants of slavery. Some also use the term the freedmen, or some say native black Americans. Whichever whichever qualification they want to go by, it all stems from the fact that black Americans have been in America from the beginning of this country. We fought in every single war since the beginning, since the 1600s. The French and Indian Wars, the American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Mexican War, the Civil War, Spanish American War, World War One, World War Two, Korean War, Vietnam War, so on and so on. The Philippine American War. In the American Revolutionary War, it was a black man who was the first one to die in our revolt against the British Empire. Crispus Attucks, the first person to die was a black American named Crispus Attucks. When the first when the first volley was struck and that black man fell, America led a war and won its freedom against the British Empire, the most powerful empire in the world at the time. After that black man fell, so I know my roots. My roots are in America. Uh, what's up, Daniel? He says I'm Mexican American. We're still dealing with the same issues, generation past generation. Facts, facts. Um, Speaking of this divide between black and African, so I recently saw a clip someone loaded. This went viral. I think it started on TikTok, but you know how things transcend platforms. So I've seen it on Instagram, and I think it's on YouTube as well. It's a white woman admonishing a Somalian for denigrating Black Americans. She was like, there's always one group of people who always, you know, got some problems with with us and this and that. She's like, it's those African Americans. And the white woman came out. Karen stepped up and said, don't call them African Americans. Here we call them Americans. She was like, how dare you talk about them when you guys won't even say that you're black. She's like, they're free in our country. We consider them equals. But she's like, guess what? You're Muslim in your countries. You still keep them as slaves, don't you? So as a matter of fact, the Middle East still conducts slavery on a large ass scale with millions of Africans, black Africans, being sold into chattel slavery to this very day. So she was like, don't talk to us about our Americans supporting you. She was like, none of us support you. White Americans don't support you. Black Americans don't support you. Asian Americans don't support you. None of us do. Go home. So I fully support Trump deporting all those MFers. They can go back to their failed state. Since they got so much, since they want to scam us for billions of dollars, they want to scam American taxpayers for billions of dollars, and they want to disrespect Black Americans. And now they lying, talking about they got a 3,000 year um, land claim to the land. How, Sway? When you didn't come to this country, look, the first Somalians didn't come to this country until about the 1920s, and that was just a handful of them, literally like a handful of them, like a dozen or so. They didn't move. They didn't come here en masse until the 1990s because of the failed state of Somalia in 1990. So they started coming over here in waves after 1991. You know, people didn't see any freaking Somalians in here before 1991. Like maybe you might have saw a few of them in New York City. That's about it. But those waves of people, uh-uh. But yeah, you don't get to scam and be a burden on our society. And then once you're being politically persecuted, say, oh, but we're black, brother. Nah, 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 nah. You guys said you were Arab, so stay Arab. So something says this is why nobody's proud of America. You can't claim just American. You got to add other shit to it. But say you're African when you've never been to Africa. I don't say that. I'm black. I'm black, and I'm American. Um, I used to be on that pro-black and pan Africanist view long time ago, and that was quick. I got quickly disabused of that idea once I was in college. Like my first year, year and a half of college, I was still in that pro-blackity black pan Africanist BS. And when asked, I'd be like, "No, I'm African or African American. That's cool, whatever." But I just it's fugazi because, like I said, the Africans and Caribbeans were delineating from us long before we were. So after decades of them delineating from us, now they're mad that we're delineating from them. I'm like, we're just giving you the same energy, and it doesn't mean we hate them, but it just means we want to establish that we are a separate lineage from them. We don't look the same, we don't behave the same, and we don't have the same culture. Some of them even say we don't have a culture. We do have a culture. It's American culture. Daniel Madrid says we're still dealing with racism. It's a sad reality. Yeah, that's true. Daniel says we're all a family of God. We're all the children of God. We're a family of one with God. Mm. Yeah, I mean that was one of the things Bruce Lee used to say. Shijo Bruce. He used to say. By the way, I have an upcoming live stream about Bruce Lee. I've talked about him before, but I'm going to talk about him again just because for some reason people find it really interesting because it's Bruce Lee. But whatever. That will be a, that will be within a few days. Okay, but yeah, Bruce Lee used to say, "Under the sun, there's but one race, the human race." Bruce Lee used to say it all of the time himself. He was very he he was very much of a plutocrat. I guess you could say he taught. You know, he liked all folks. He got along with pretty much anyone. I mean, he had to deal because it was the 50s and 60s in which he lived in America. He had to deal with racism. By the way, Daniel, can you hear the salsa in the back? I had to like keep it down because I don't want to get copyrighted, but I am playing some salsa in the back. Uh, what's this? Um, the Mega Mix salsa para bailar, salsa mix by DJ Villa, La Benedición. But anyway, and I do have Afro Latino ancestry as well, but we can save that for another day. So much so that like when I used to hang out with my Latino friends when I used to live in DC, people used to always question where am I from because people thought I was Dominican or I was from the Caribbean. I'm like, no, I'm just plain black, black American. And the funny thing was at the time, because I was living amongst people from so many different cultures, I used to feel bad that I wasn't from somewhere overseas, like because you know, like growing up where I was as a little kid. I'm from the East Coast, so where I lived, it was a Jamaican community. So my nanny was Jamaican, so some of the very first food I ate was Jamaican food. And I'm pretty sure because I was on a medical diet, I wasn't supposed to eat that stuff, but whatever. She was telling my mother, "Oh no, he likes it." So I was eating that good stuff. Pause. Since I was little. Then, like I said, I've had Latino friends since I was a teenager because the DC suburbs there's a lot of Latino people, especially El Salvadoran folks. And although I've come down on the side of ICE and stuff like that, I've always considered these folks my friends, like good personal friends. So I don't want people to think I'm xenophobic or anything like that. Like I said, I have Afro Latino family members, um, and some of my closest friends when I was a teenager were Latino and Caribbean and African. And that gets to the point, and I'm going to make a separate live stream about this in the future, is that delineation doesn't mean um, being enemies. It just means we need to delineate for socio-political reasons. That doesn't mean we can't get along, we can't be friends. It just means that we need to establish ourselves as foundational Black Americans, as distinct from other uh, groups who come here to America from the continent or from the islands. So we have a different culture and we have different needs, and also we have limited resources in America for which some of these, um, for which many of these things have been provided specifically for us and not for anyone else. But getting back to Bruce Lee, like I said, he he was a man of all cultures. He even said in one of his movies in Way of the Dragon, thank you, thank you for the gift, appreciate that. But yeah, so Bruce said in The Way of the Dragon, which was titled Return of the Dragon here in America, he was talking to one of his buddies. He was like, "You don't train karate?" He said, "Man, I don't want to do that Japanese stuff." He's, "I don't even want to train Chinese." And Bruce Lee was like, "Look, man," he said, "if it looks, if he said, he said, if what you learn can help you look out for yourself in a fight, it doesn't matter where it comes from as long as it's effective." And that was Bruce Lee's like really his own views bit being portrayed into the character he was playing on screen, because that's how he also felt. He's like, he didn't matter where the martial arts came from as long as it helped you look after yourself in a fight. That's also how he felt about knowledge, because he was a philosophy major, but he was trained in Western philosophy. um, but yeah, I mean, his very first student was a black man, Shifu Jesse, who died unfortunately a few years ago. His his first, if people saw the movie Dragon, that came out in 1993. Well, it wasn't a very realistic movie, but it did portray the fact that his very first student was black. But for some reason, they changed his name. I'm guessing they didn't get the rights to use his actual name in the movie, which is Jesse Glover. So they named the character Tyrone in the movie Dragon, a Bruce Lee story. But yeah, his very first student was a black guy. He also trained white people, Asian people. His uh, best friend when he came to America was Japanese. His fiance before he married Linda Lee was a Japanese woman. His first like major girlfriend when he was in America. I believe they were engaged for a while. Um, then one of his other closest friends was Dan Santo, Filipino, who ended up taking over the school for him once he went back to Hong Kong to pursue his acting career. So Sebastian, let me put on my glasses here. Some of these usernames are hard to see. I need to get my eyes checked, which I will soon. Sebastian Mosqueda said saw very few Somalis. He said, "Yeah, it didn't come like that." Yeah, right. Yeah, so I mean, I've seen Somalis when, like I said, living in the DC area. It's just like New York is very cosmopolitan. So you're gonna find people everywhere, particularly in the good region, in the more expensive areas. Like when you live in Montgomery County, which at the time in the '90s was the wealthiest county in the country. I think it's still like number three or number four, but back in the '90s, it was the wealthiest county in the country. And so it was people from everywhere at my high school, then at college, just in my neighborhood alone. Like when I first moved to my neighborhood, a lot of the white people were starting to move out because there were more Latinos moving in. So there was some white flight, but the white flight wasn't because of the black people; it was because of the brown people. So, but either still, like I could walk like a block up the street. Like both of my neighbors were white, but and across the street were white. But if I walked a block down, like the neighbors were Indian, uh, Latino, Asian, very few black people, and the few of black people who were there were black Africans. They weren't black Americans. So it was very cosmopolitan. And I mean, just walking around my neighborhood, I might come across 10 different languages, you know, from Spanish to French to Hindi to Vietnamese to Korean to Persian to Arabic, um, whatever. But Sebastian says the label African American wasn't chosen by black people. So, the term African American, I don't want to say it was coined by Jesse Jackson, but he made it popular back in the late 1970s, early 1980s. He made the term African American or Afro American popular. Most black people at the time did not call themselves African American or Afro American. We called ourselves black, or before that, Negro. Negro was a perfectly fine word. It was just the Spanish word for black, which again shows our roots in America extends way back to the time of the Spanish conquistadors, because the black people, they were referring to the black people as Negroes from that very time when they used when you know when they were first known to be accompanying the Spaniards. Because like I said, there were black people living in America before the American colonies were established, because they had came here with the Spaniard conquistadors. So they lived among the Spaniards. That may or may not explain my Hispanic heritage and my Hispanic ancestry, because I do have a little bit of Hispanic ancestry, and I'm guessing that's connected to the fact that I have Afro Latino family members on my father's side of the family. Sicilian says, so say American, not black American. You didn't hear me when I said from the beginning. I said I'm American. I said that from the very jump, the beginning of this live stream. I only use the qualification black American if someone, to separate myself from immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean who claim to be black people. I'm like, you're not black. You're African, or you're Caribbean, or you're Afro Latino. Well, black Americans are Americans, but qualifications are necessary. We say foundational black Americans to let people know that our lineage is distinct from the waves of immigrants coming from Africa and the Caribbean. That's why we have to make the distinction. If they were not trying to fake the funk and portray themselves as one of us, then we wouldn't have to do that. Daniel says we all bleed the same blood. We all worship the same God. We are all Americans in life. Suneye Jaguar says amen. Hashtag FBA. Yes, sir. Cecilia says adding the color in front of it as division. There's already division. And so the way I look at it is, so you know how that people used to say that America is, they would say America is what I think like they would say a stew. You throw in these different ingredients, but it all boils down to be into the same thing, the same stew or soup or whatever. I prefer it as a salad. Like you have these distinct parts of the salad that come together to make it this one thing, which is salad, but they all have their distinct flavor and taste. It's not like when you just throw something into some stew or goulash of some sort, and then it all kind of just becomes this. indistinguishable blob. Americans are not an indistinguishable blob. They never have been. We all have our own flavors, which is, our own subcultures, our own languages, or even if we all, and even amongst us who all speak, American English, there's still regional dialects. So I mean, it's no different than someone distinguishing that they're Cajun or Creole who lives in Louisiana, right? Um, it's no different than people establishing themselves as Midwesterners or people in in parts of New England who distinguish themselves as Yankees. You know, although Yankee is a very promiscuous word, there's a group of folks who can be called Yankees. So distinction does not foster division. Sometimes the lack of distinction is what fosters division. Sebastian is right here. He says people don't understand that America has been a mix since the beginning. And that's exactly my point. America has always been a mixture of people with distinct cultures and interests and languages and abilities, but we do come together as one for the important things, like for the sake of the union. And one thing we won't tolerate are a bunch of illegal aliens or people who have permanent residence here who are then coming here scamming and taking advantage of the American taxpayer. I mean, most of us, unless, unless you're unless you're a radical leftist, most of us find this completely abhorrent, no matter what racial or ethnic group you claim. And then, like I said, then they go overseas and then they um, claim to be black, but they're doing they're doing a whole bunch of fuckery and claiming to be black, making it hot for black people when they visit these countries and trying to use racial solidarity to escape accountability. I'm about to look up this guy's name right now. This Somali retard who goes to East Asia claiming and then claims to be black after he gets in trouble. Give me a second while I look it up, guys, because he's gonna be my case in an example. Johnny Somali, that's his name. Fucking moron. So I'm gonna use him as an example. So Johnny Somali, so Somali streamer in South Korea, and I'm gonna use his real fucking name. I'm using his government name because he doesn't deserve his anonymity when he's trolling and pretending to be black when he gets in trouble, and I mean serious trouble, guys. Somali streamer in South Korea. Ramsey Khalid is Ismail, known as Johnny Somali, is an American live streamer who has faced legal issues in South Korea due to his provocative behavior while traveling overseas. He has been indicted for causing a quote unquote commotion at a convenience store and is facing multiple charges, including obstruction of business and creating or sharing deep fake videos. If found guilty, he could face serious jail time with potential sentences, plural sentences, reaching up to 31 years in prison. Somali's behavior has drawn significant attention and has led to his arrest and detention in various countries. various countries, including South Korea, Japan, and Israel. And like I said, I blame platforms that allow um that allow this sort of like low quality streaming where people can go overseas and scam and harass the locals there because they know they're in countries where the people are too polite to put hands on them. Because Johnny Somali wouldn't do that here in America because someone will put hands on him if he tried to do the fuckery that he does over there. And so when he's in trouble, he wants to claim he's black, but he's a he's a tether. He's a Somalian reject immigrant, and it's so bad now that that's what they're known for. I mean, Somalis already didn't have a good ethnic image about them before. Now they're known internationally as scammers, but before then they were already being known as pirates. Yar, like we all seen or heard of the movie Captain Phillips, played by Tom Hanks. How he had to be rescued by special forces. Navy SEALs lit them little fucking Somali pirates up. Big forehead bastards. Anyone with a head like that, they not they looking like they got a what's that neurological condition with water on the brain? Hydrocephalus. That's what they look like. Their whole group of people look like they got hydrocephalus. Big forehead bastards. Sicilian says you never hear an Italian saying they're African Italian. That's on them. I can't speak for Italians. I'm not part of the Italian community. I can't speak for what Italians decide to call themselves. That's not my that's not my fort. Um, I'm I'm talking about the Black American community. And if you're not Black American, you're not really in a position to tell us how we choose to address ourselves. If we want to address ourselves as foundational Black Americans, we're going to address ourselves as foundational Black Americans because you can't do anything about it. Daniel says Trump isn't Catholic, but I believe that people want to divide and tear each other down, so we have to lift each other up instead, always for the better of all of us. Amen. Sebastian, thank you, sir. Thank you for the common sense. He's like, yeah, Sicilian. That's probably because Italians aren't from Africa. Duh. Right. Thank thank you, Sebastian, for pointing out the obvious to this man. Like he wants to talk on how Black Americans address their community. Like I'm not going. Am I going to Sicily telling Sicilians that they should not call themselves Sicilian Italians? They should only call themselves Italians? No. I'm staying in my lane, and I think he should stay in his lane as well. I'm always 100 says he was a man of the people. Yep, yep. Oh, you can hear it, Daniel, the salsa in the back. Salsa. I mean, you guys, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Man, and like I said, my Latino friends put me on game. Like I remember as a teenager, like they were the ones like trying to hook me up with the Latina girls. Matter of fact, one of my homeboys, I met his older sisters. They were so beautiful. They're like uh Panamanian and Salvadoran. No. Yeah, wait. Yeah. They're half Panamanian, half Salvadoran. Their father's Panamanian, and the father actually considers himself black. Because when I met him and talked with him, he was cool. I actually saw him again in Baltimore because they, uh, at the mall near where I live, they were doing a celebration of the Negro leagues. For those of you who are baseball fans, you will know that the the members of the Negro leagues that played in the earliest 20th century were recently admitted into the major league baseball. So all their records have been a, have become part of the major leagues. People like Satchel Paige, um, and many others who never made it to the major leagues, but were scouted at one point for the major leagues when they were looking for their first black player, right? And some of these people have better records than Babe Ruth. I mean, but Babe Ruth is the goat when it comes to baseball. But to be honest, in the Negro League, some of these people, there was one or two people that were putting up some stats that rivaled Babe Ruth. Um, and like I said, my friend's father, he was there saying, "Yeah, man," he said, "Yeah, I'm here supporting." He's like, I'm black." He considered himself black. I didn't know that. I was like, "Damn, I didn't know my boy Edgar's father was part of was with the culture." I hope he's still doing well because they moved. I remember one of the uh, one of the times I was at my father's house, I did walk by the house to see if they were there. I should have actually knocked on the door. I was too nervous to knock on the door because I haven't been there in like 20 years. Wait, it might yeah, it was about 20 years since I had been to their place. So so I wasn't sure if I didn't think they still lived there. They might, but I remember when I first moved in that area, I saw his sisters, and it was such a difference between them and the sisters. I mean, between them and the black women, like at the time, because they were walking by, and my cousin was with me. He was flirting with them. He was like, "Hey, what's up, girls?" I for sure knew they were either gonna ignore us or like you know try to roast us or something. They turned around with the sweetest smile. Oh, by the way, they were twins. His sisters were twin sisters. Only way you knew one apart from the others is one kept her hair short, the other one kept it long. They turned around with a smile. They look When they smiled, they looked like Selena. If you ever seen like what Selena cover cover albums, that smile of Selena, that's how they look. They were just a little bit more brown than Selena. They turned around. They was like, "Hi guys, how are you?" I was like, me and my cousin looked at each other. We was like, that was our exact look. that, that was our exact look. This was long. This is like, this is literally 30 years ago, and I still remember this. Then on top of that, once I started getting to know all the Latinos in the neighborhood, because like I said, there were no black. There were really no. There was like two black people in the neighborhood that I knew of at the time, and one became one of my best friends. The other one I didn't know too well because I didn't know where he lived, and like we never hung out. But it was mostly Latinos in the neighborhood, so that's who I hung out with. And they were Salvadoran, they were Mexican, Puerto Rican, Guatemalan, and others. But most were Salvadoran. And I remember one of the guys, like, he was older than me. His sisters were still going to high school with me. He was like, "Yo, man," he's like, "No, he said, "You're cool." He said, "I'd have set you up with one of my sisters." He said, he said, "I don't want one of these little." He was referring to the other Spanish kids that I knew. He was like, "I don't want one of these little dumbasses dating my sister." He's out. I will let you date my sisters. Like he was giving me a choice because he was giving me a choice of either sister. I never even looked at either one of them like that, but I was like, cool. I looked at him afterwards like that. I was like, you know. But yeah, I never dated one of them. But yeah, and then like I said, my other Latino homeboys, when we would go out, they would put me on game. Like one of them, we were hanging out in college, and he took me to the club, and he was telling his homegirls, "Yo, dance with my boy right here," and like the girls was trying to show me how to dance to the different music. They was trying to show me how to dance to salsa and merengue and bachata. I'm like, okay, okay. I had fun. One of my homeboys today, one of my black friends, like Latina women turned him out. Like that's all he likes. I mean, that's not all he likes, but his preference is Latina women. So I already know that when once he once I'm a godfather, his his kid's gonna be Afro Latino. He's gonna be making a little Miles Morales. um, and get wipe these glasses off. They're getting smudged. But Sebastian says, yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a time Italians weren't considered white. Oh, absolutely, bro. I've addressed that in a previous stream too, when I was saying that the concept of whiteness has evolved over the years, and that particularly in America, the concept of whiteness has always revolved, excuse me, around the idea of the absence of blackness, which is funny because if you do a if you look at the ancestry of most Southern white Americans, like most of them have at least 6% black DNA in them. And it's funny because there is an old saying in the deep South that if you look far enough into a white person's family tree, a black person will fall out, which is true because, like I said, most of them have over 6% DNA. And I think it's actually more than I think that's actually a low estimate. It might be more like 16% or something like that. But most Southern white Americans have black ancestry. Let's put it that way. But as far as Italians, yeah, Italians and Irish, Italians, Irish, and many of the European immigrants that came from Southern and Eastern Europe were not considered white when they first came to America. If you were not uh, WASP, white Anglo-Saxon, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you were not white in America up until like the middle of the 20th century. So Italians weren't white, Irish weren't white, Jewish people weren't white, Greeks, Greeks and Greek people and Slavic people and Russians, all these people weren't considered white. You know, um, that came later. So especially Sicilians who typically are olive complexioned definitely weren't considered white. But yeah, that's all facts. Um, but yeah, Daniel says I can hear the salsa in the back. Sicilians, there's plenty of other races in Italy. Oh, I know that. There's a large Filipino community in Italy. There's plenty of uh, there's there's black people in Italy. There's other Asian people in Italy. I know, but the point being is you can't really talk about how people distinguish themselves in America compared to how they distinguish themselves in another country because America has its own history, its own culture in which people do make those distinctions. And I don't think you should begrudge people who make the distinctions here in America because the point is we have always made these distinctions. Now we still all consider ourselves Americans, except for these again these far left leaning people who hate America. hate their heritage. But for the most part, most of middle America, regardless of race, do consider themselves Americans first. And then they make that distinction. Dan says, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Thank you. And like Sebastian's telling us, Sicilian, he said, yeah, but we're talking America. Exactly. America. Like I said, our our history and culture is sui generis, which is to say it is unique from other countries. So you can't judge how we distinguish ourselves in our country from how people choose to distinguish themselves in other countries because we're not those other countries. United States of America, just listen to the title of it, United States of America, means we are making in the very name of our country, we we're we're coming together as different people, different states. The colonies, the United States was originally the 13 colonies. They all had a distinct economies and culture. They came together as a union for the purposes of revolt against the British Empire. But they maintained their separate ways of life and decided to become a constitutional republic. And like Sebastian saying, he says, I'm not saying other countries don't have other races. I know they do. Are you from the Caribbean? No. Again, I'm Black American. that's that's what I've been trying to say from the beginning. I'm Black American, which is why I take umbrage at people who are not Black American going overseas and then pretending to be Black American for the purposes of ingratiating themselves to the local people who have a fondness for Black Americans, whether it be the women or you know the particular governments or whatever. A lot of these people from the continent of Africa, from the Caribbean islands, um, go overseas and cosplay as Black Americans, like this guy Johnny Somali I was just telling you about, who is an American live streamer, but he's originally from, he's originally from Africa. He's not black, but every time he gets in trouble when he's in Japan or Israel or South Korea, then he wants to say, they're being racist and persecuting him because he's black. It's like, no, they're not. First of all, you're not black. Two, they're not persecuting you because of your race. They're persecuting you because you're a troll streamer. And like I said, a lot of these platforms need to come start bringing the hammer down on these troll streamers, because if they can't make money off of what they do, then they'll stop doing it. Actually, no, I think he is. He was. I think he says he was born in Phoenix, Arizona. He's still not American. I don't care. I mean, he's yeah, he's American by birth, but he's probably one of these. Uh, what do you call them? These I have to get some water, guys. My voice is getting froggy. But he's probably one of these little babies they bring here just so the parents can get their American citizenship. And he graduated from Arizona State University with a finance degree. As stupid as he is, surprising. Of course, Arizona State isn't a good school. That's a little fucktard school, but whatever. He began streaming as a tourist on YouTube and Kick in 2023. He was banned from Kick in 2024 and then moved to Rumble because Rumble, like I said before, with my friend Renegade, If you guys haven't checked out my last stream, I had a content creator named Renegade on my platform, who's now a friend to the channel. We plan on doing some more content together. No, we are not together. Although I kept joking about that because people kept saying you guys must be a couple. So we're not, but we're friends. Um, I was telling her about that because she does a lot of her content on Rumble, and I was saying, oh yeah, I was joking to her about Rumble, saying that Rumble seems to be the island of misfit toys. So if you guys have ever seen the classic Rudolph the Reindeer movie, they end up at the island of misfit toys where all the broken toys that can't be sent out on Christmas Day go to live. And so Rumble is sort of like the the content creation platform for content creators kicked off every other platform like Kick and YouTube and Twitch and TikTok. Like they all go to Rumble. So that's why he's able to do such low quality content. It's because he's on Rumble, and Rumble is known for low quality content. Shout out to Rumble though. Yeah, it says look, he was fined 200,000 yen for destruction of business in Japan, and like he would be riding like he doesn't know anything about in Japanese culture. Like no one talks and yaps on the train. Like people are pretty much will text each other and stay silent on their trip. Like it is relaxing on a Japanese train. You can just go to sleep. You don't have to worry about anyone assaulting you or robbing you. Uh, People won't be yelling and carrying on. You can just take a nap on your way to wherever you gotta go, um, or you can enjoy the the Wi-Fi from the transportation from the transportation system. He was on there harassing people on the train, like cussing, fussing, putting putting hands on people, not like beating them up, but I mean like just being obnoxious and touching people. That's not a touchy feely culture. You don't do that in Japan. And then just insulting people and knowing that he can do it because these people are too polite to uh, to risk getting themselves in trouble by punching him. Until, like I said, a Korean American stepped up to him and was about ready to beat his ass. Then he backed down. He thinks all this stuff is funny. Like it's obvious. I would. It's highly likely that Johnny Somali is on the spectrum. Like like if you look at him, he looks semi-retarded, but then that's because he's Somalian, and most of those Somalian guys look kind of fucking stupid anyway. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. Most of those Somalian men do look fucking weird. They got big ass foreheads and they look these weak jaw lines, and they just look kind of retarded. Like like they look like they don't quite have Down syndrome, but it wouldn't be half a step away from being so. Like they look stupid looking. So I can't tell whether Johnny Somali looks that way just because he's Somalian or because he got some missing chromosomes. It can go either way because, like I said, Somalians already look fucking stupid because they got those big, wide fucking foreheads, which lead down to a, a pizza shaped face with a soft chin that begs to be punched. So he looks semi retarded despite having a degree in finance, which would indicate that he might be smart, but he doesn't act that way. But that just shows there's a difference between intelligence and rationality. Those are two different distinct cognitive abilities. Oh, guys, look at this one. There's a new playing another song here. This is DJ Linda Saron. I'm just saying. This is why brothers like Latinas. I mean, this she is like big booty Latinas. We stop. But yeah. Dan says you're African American. I'm Mexican American. We're all Americans. Yeah, we're all Americans. But I consider myself Black American. I don't consider myself African American because, like I said, I've my family's been here, for 400 years. So I don't have. Yes, I have African. I have, you know, sub-Saharan African ancestry, but I don't consider myself African because I've never been there. My parents have never been there. My grandparents have never been there. My great grandparents have never been there. My great grandparents have never been there, and my multiple great grandparents have never been there. So he said we're all on the diet. Is a sense in adding races between your countries what causes division. Again, speak for your country. Can't really speak for us. Yeah, yo, I gotta let y'all see Linda again. DJ Linda. DJ Linda is living her best life right now out on these streets. DJ Linda Saron. Mikaro, wait, what's it? Mikaro Rumba. Volume 1. See? This and this is why brothers is going to Colombia and the Dominican Republic every week because of that. Sebastian says the funniest part of this conversation is that you're probably mixed by now. So I've done my DNA ancestry. Um, I'm going to do another one to cross reference it, but at least as far as the one I've taken through the National Geographic, um, they put out one long time ago called the Genographic Project, and I took their 2.0 version. So I am how what percent? So I'm 79. Yes, so I'm 79% Black African. Okay, and the majority of that is West African, but I also have East African in me and a little bit of South African. Uh, and then I'm 19% European, and that's about uh, that's a majority Northwest European, but also have um, also have Hispanic ancestry. About mm, can't remember. I think it was like 3-4%, something like that. And then I'm about 1% Neanderthal. Don't be surprised by that because anyone who has European ancestry has Neanderthal ancestry as well. So about 1% Neanderthal, about 3-4% Hispanic, then the rest is Northwest European, making about 20%. Then, like I said, 79% Black African. So that is my mix. And most Black Americans uh, are on average. Most Black Americans on average are about mm, if I can are about 22% European. And of course that's an average, so it's going to be more or less depending on the individual and what part of the country they're from. If they're from the south, it's going to tend to be less European. If they're from the north, it's going to be more tend to be more European ancestry. But on average, it's like 22%. And usually is a degree. The degrees of freedom are plus or minus three, so that can range all the way up to 25%, or down or to about uh, 19 19%. So the mean average is 22. So the average Black American has about 22% European ancestry, which is again why we are a unique lineage from Black Africans. Some of us even have indigenous uh, American Indian ancestry as well, although not a lot, but some of us do as well, especially the ones who lived in Indian country uh, during the 1800s. Oh, and by the way, I do read the comments. I just ignore a lot of them. um, Daniel says you're not Islamophobic. You're good. Hope not, because I was Muslim as a child. Like my actual name is Aman, so I have a Muslim name. I was a Muslim child. We converted um, when my mother married my stepfather, but we were Muslim until then. And even though my DNA test didn't specifically pick it up, I do have Dutch Jewish ancestry as well, but that would have fell under the Northwest European ancestry, and probably also the uh, and probably also under the East African ancestry as well. Because since East African ancestry is mostly is typified, typified by people being of Semitic, having Semitic ancestral lineage, that would distinguish those specific East African people from other people in other parts of East Africa. So anyway, so since it says you won't see a Black Italian saying they're African Italian if they're born in Italy, they're in fact Italian. Again, you're missing the point. This isn't Italy. I don't know. Both Sebastian and I have told you the same thing. We're not talking about Italy. We're talking about America. So anything you have to say about Italy, with all due respect, has absolutely has no relevance here. We're not in Italy. We're not in Italy, so we don't really give a shit about how Black people in Italy identify themselves. On top of that, Black people in Italy are not Black Americans. They don't have the same lineage as us. You keep missing that very fun foundational point that I've made from the very beginning. Foundational Black Americans are a distinct lineage. We don't have the lineage of Black people in Italy. Black people in Italy are mostly a bunch of Africans who've immigrated there over the last few decades. A bunch of people who immigrated to Italy in the last few decades are not the same as people who've lived in America for over 400 years. It's not the same thing. You keep missing that point, and you keep trying to make a point that has no relevance here. Black Italian, I don't give a shit about Black Italians. They're just a bunch of Africans living in Italy. Black Americans are Black people. They are their distinct lineage, foundational Black Americans. Our ancestry is not, I mean, excuse me, our lineage is not the same as Black Italians. So I don't care how Black Italians identify themselves. They are not the same as us. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. Sebastian says there's no such thing as pure anything. Exactly. It really isn't. Daniel says, yeah, we can be. He said we can be friends. We can be friends. Exactly. Yep. Sebastian says, but they won't do it. I'm always a stratification of the primordial melting pot of people who are fools and bums. I don't exactly get that, but what I was saying earlier is the whole concept of the American melting pot was always a bad idea because America has never been a melting pot. We're not thrown into a melting pot and then become all one, you know, one incongruous blob. Like instead, we're more like a tossed salad where we're all a part of the salad, but we all retain our distinct flavors and look. But we all come together in these different distinctions. And I gotta give this video a like. I'm sorry, this gets a like. Just guys, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's all I'm saying. This is why brothers going to Latin America. I thought DJ Linda was the finest. It was some other ones dancing that uh, better than. You see the one on the side? She. I was trying to show her to you guys, but she's gone. Oh, he's dancing with her. I think the guy he's dancing with her. It was this one on the side. Oh, she was killing it. I'm just saying. I know I'm getting sidetracked, but the big booty Latinas will do that to you. Get you sidetracked, Mike. The DJ got to what? You the DJ? Why you got to shake it too? You know what I'm saying? All right, all right. Back back to the scheduled topic. Getting sidetracked here. Sicilian says it must be an American thing. Then, yes, bro. This is literally what we've been saying to you for an hour. This is an American thing. We're not in Italy, and black people in Italy aren't the same as black Americans. They are African people who've recently immigrated to Italy. They're not the same as black Americans who have been here 400 plus years. Like the American colonies started with the settlement of Jamestown in 1607. Okay, in the Virginia colony. Then you had the Plymouth colony. I'm sorry, the Plymouth settlement of Massachusetts colony set down in about 1619. But the first black people came here a year before the Plymouth the the ships come before the Mayflower. So the Mayflower, I think, came to the Massachusetts colony and set down in a Plymouth settlement in around 1619. The ship bringing the black folks arrived a year before the Mayflower, which came here in 1619. The black people came here before the Mayflower. Before the Mayflower, because many of them were coming to assist in the redevelopment of Jamestown because Jamestown was almost completely obliterated with their war in their war with the Indians. Not to mention dying due to not knowing how to survive the American climate. So the Jamestown settlement had almost died out, and they were sent reinforcements. Many of those reinforcements were black people. Some were slaves, but some of them were not. They were indentured servants. So they were free black people in the very beginning of America, not just slaves. And again, when you look at the average black American today, they're like 20, the average black American is 22% of European ancestry. On top of some of them also having uh, indigenous ancestry, Hispanic ancestry, um, Asian ancestry. So we're not the same. You can't compare us to what black people are doing in Italy because we are two separate countries with two different histories. And black foundational black Americans have a different lineage than people in other parts of the African diaspora. Daniel says, I found my family on Ancestry, and I'm glad Ancestry helped me find my family, helped me a lot. Yeah, I haven't done Ancestry.com. I was thinking of a second one that I want to do. It probably wouldn't be Ancestry.com. I think Ancestry.com is good for finding recent familial connections. But if you're looking more towards your ancestral roots, I think there might be better DNA kits out there. The one I'm thinking of is uh, I forgot the name of it. Something DNA, but the one that I took again was the Genographic Project. Um, Dan says I've seen Somalians in New York and Washington D.C. I've seen them there traveling, yeah, from everywhere, from every walk of life. Yeah, like I said, I've met Somalians in college and in the D.C. area. There's a region of D.C. that is a lot of East Africans, particularly Ethiopians. There's like Ethiopians, Eritreans, Somalians. Daniel says America has people from all walks of life. Exactly, that's the amazing thing about America. Mike making music says, how you doing today? I'm doing fine. I'm about to call it quits for the night though. It's later than you know what I how late I planned on being on here. But I just wanted to school my friend because he kept trying to compare the the distinction of foundational Black Americans with Black Italians. I'm like, we're not the same folks. Like we're not in the same country. So how they choose to self identify is completely has no bearing whatsoever on how Black Americans choose to identify themselves. Daniel says, I saw the term African American. He made the term popular. Exactly. Yeah, Jesse Jackson was the one who popularized the term African American, whereas not everyone, not all black people in America at the time, uh, took up that term. They continued calling themselves black. Daniel says there's people who say um, from the Caribbean that the who say from Caribbean that they're black. I have heard that a lot. Yeah, so like I said, so you have Afro Caribbean people, and some of them call themselves black. Now, here's how I see it. Right, if you are if you are part of if you're a Caribbean person who's lived amongst black people and you identify yourself as Black American, I don't have a problem with that. My problem, again, with Caribbean or African immigrants is when they set themselves apart from black culture, but then they want to call themselves black when it's politically expedient to do so. That's that's the point that I'm making. Like for instance, Malcolm X was of West African roots. His mother was from Grenada. His father was foundational Black American, but his mother was from Grenada, and I mean, he's always considered himself a part of the culture, Black American. Same as Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan is from the islands as well, or his parents are from the islands. But again, Louis Farrakhan has always seen himself as black first. He didn't set himself apart from other Black Americans, saying that no, my roots are from such and such. Louis, at least publicly, Louis Farrakhan has always considered himself black before anything else. All right, let me show you guys this again because it's all the ladies. It's all the ladies. If you don't have a passport yet, what are you doing with your life? Why don't you have one? Look at this. This is what you're missing because you refuse to get a passport. That $120 you spent on sneakers, you could have spent that on a passport, and you could be seeing this right now. But no, you want to go buy some new Nikes, right? That's what you want to do with your money, or you want to use $120 to take that fat girl out to the restaurant because she said she won't go. She's not doing coffee. Daniel says there's already division. We're dealing with generation past, generation issues still going on today. Exactly. And what he doesn't get is that sometimes the failure to make the distinctions fosters more division. And that was another point that he missed, is that sometimes failing to make distinctions can foster division, because even if even if you don't draw uh these distinctions, you don't lime out these distinctions, people are still going to find ways to delineate. But at least if you already have these divisions, you can deal with that. Like, it's just like Latinos and black people are different. That doesn't mean we can't like each other. It's the same thing with foundational Black Americans and Caribbeans and African people. Just because we draw that distinction doesn't mean we can't like each other. There are plenty Black Americans who marry African and Caribbean people. So, you know, again, this is why I'm going to make a separate live stream in the future saying delineation does not mean division. That's going to be the title. That sounds, how's that? Is that bars? Delineation does not mean division. So Daniel says we were all raised differently. We all see things differently. The way we were raised to believe a certain way, raised by parents like that. Yeah. Daniel says that's what fosters division instead of bringing us together. Exactly right. He said we have a lot in common as people that unites us uh, than what divides us. Daniel says I don't like anyone scamming the U.S. taxpayers' money, scamming American taxpayers. Exactly. Yeah. Like, you're gonna you're gonna you're gonna draw ire on your group when not everyone, it's not all Somalians, right? But when you have a significant number of them scamming American taxpayers to the bill of $1 billion, $1 billion, and that's what we know of so far, and a lot of it's being sent overseas back to Somalia to support terrorist groups like Al Shabaab. Yes, that's going to draw the ire of American people. And I know it's unfair that all Somalian Americans face that discrimination, but take accountability for your group. If you don't want your if you don't want that negative ethnic image for your group, you need to hold your own people in check. Westover, no, I don't think. I think Jake Paul is going to win. I think Jake Paul is whatever's going to happen to Jake Paul is whatever that was already agreed upon in their contract, because he's fake. His fights are fake. That's what I think. I think whatever they agreed upon in their non-disclosure agreement is what's going to happen. That's what I think. Paul Gates says, I don't know. I think Johnny Somali might give you a hard time. Yeah, Paul Gates, you clearly never been to my channel before. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna even tout my accolades. I'm tired of telling people what my background is. If you don't already know what my background is, then go ahead and think that a skinny little scammer who's never fought before can take me in a fight. Yeah, you're okay. You're exactly right. Keep believing that dumb shit. Anyway, Daniel says I don't like anyone claiming to be American, Black American, live streamer in South Korea, indicted in South Korea, fake videos. He shouldn't be doing that. Like I said, he's not black. He's Johnny Somali. He was born in Phoenix, Arizona, but he's not Black American. He's a Somalian. See, if I wasn't doing a mobile live stream, I would show pictures of him. But you look at him, and he's clearly not black. Like I said, most of the Somalis consider themselves Arab, and you can tell they look completely distinct from black Americans. They don't even look like the other East Africans. Like if you go like Kenyan, like people from Kenya and Ugandan are black folks, but a lot of people in Somali, like there's different tribes within Somalia, but the major group don't consider themselves black. They consider themselves Arab, and they have that distinct look with the big ass foreheads. Charles says it's Down syndrome. I don't. I don't know. I don't think Johnny Somali has Down syndrome. I just think like you don't have to have Down syndrome to be retarded. there's different there's different genetic causes of mental retardation, or what's nowadays called as intellectual dysfunction. Okay, uh, Down syndrome is the most well known cause, but it's not the only cause. PKU can cause mental retardation, which is actually a metabolic disorder. Um, but yeah, Johnny Somali, I just think he's probably a funny looking dude because most Somali men, I don't think he has Down syndrome or any sort of mental retardation. I think he's just funny looking because most Somalian men look fucking funny looking. They got them big ass foreheads with a with the soft ass chin, like their faces are shaped like a pizza. Uh, Daniel says the platforms scammers overseas. We said the platform scammers overseas use. That's wrong. He wouldn't do that in America. Yeah, because like I said, uh, uh, these little streamers that try to punk people on their videos would get punched here. Actually, that happened last year. Like one of these little troll streamers ended up getting shot by the person he was harassing. And the funny thing is, the guy got away with it in court. The only thing he got, the only thing that the guy who shot him got charged with, well, got convicted of, was having a dangerous weapon in the mall. But that was it because he was licensed to carry, and it was considered. The judge ruled it in self defense. Like I said, the only thing he was charged. I'm sorry, it wasn't uh put. Yeah, it was he got convicted of using a weapon in a confined space. That was the only. But they threw away the charges against them for like, attempted murder and manslaughter and all that sort of stuff because pretty much the court decided that the streamer had it coming to him. So like I said, people are not gonna go as far as Johnny Somali does in these other countries here in America because here they know they face repercussions. People will put hands on them, or they will pull out that tool, like what happened to that guy last year. No, that was actually 2 years ago now. 2 years ago, sorry. But and Johnny Somali isn't the only one. There's a few other people that's been doing it too. There's this Russian guy who was convicted and blacklisted in the Philippines for doing the same thing. These little struggle streamers got to go. Philippines is starting to ratchet down on these on content creators who come to the Philippines and harass the locals or disrespect their country. I didn't say I saw that movie. Slash McGraw says, "What's the word on?" Chilling, man. About to go to bed. Um, but for you guys who've been rocking it with me, I'm gonna give you another shot of Linda living her best life. But this ain't about her. All right. Um, what's up, Eric? Uh, Dan says, I can't believe he does that in South Korea. He won't do that in America. They put hands on him. Yep. My words exactly. Uh, hold on, let me fix my glasses here. Okay, there we go. Daniel says he can't tell you how to address your community. He's not in a place to tell you that. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what that dude was on. Like he's in Italy trying to tell an American how to, how to self-identify. Like, dude, I pointed that out to him earlier. I was like, you need to stay in your lane. I was like, I'm not coming to Italy telling people how they should self-identify. I stay in my lane. I was like, you should do the same. I told him that earlier. He missed it because I don't. Will Throttle says, as well as the Black Air Corps men who served. Yes, sir. Yo, Linda is bad. I'm sorry, y'all. What country is she in? I'm just saying. Damn, says a description isn't available for this video. Kang Young. Daniel says Latino friends put you on game. Is that right? Presenting women friends to you. Yeah, that exactly. Like I said, one of my friends even tried to hook me up with his sisters. He was like, "Yo, you can date." He said, "You can date either one of my sisters." He's like, "I'd rather." He's like, "Frankly, I'd rather you date one of my sisters than one of these little knuckleheads." He's like, he's like, "You're." He's like, "You seem to be like a smart guy." He's saying, "And you're respectful." He said, "A lot of these guys don't know how to act." He said, "I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't want one of these guys with one of my sisters." So he was straight up like, "Yo, I want you to date one of my sisters." And I should have took him up on the offer. But I didn't even see them I never even looked at them like that because I never really talked to them. Like when I'm around them, like we were all as a group, so I never actually spoken directly to them. So I never even saw them like that. And I'm wondering if one of them had put a bug in his ear about me. That's why he mentioned it. Who knows? Probably, that was a missed opportunity. in the meantime, I was actually trying to get at this one Latina girl. I don't even know. I don't know if she was El Salvadoran or what. Her name was Christina, um, and she had a homegirl named um, Rosemarie. And originally, I tried to give her a friend Rosemarie, who was like Guatemalan, and she looked Guatemalan, like she looked straight up like she was a Mayan. She had that Mayan, but in a cute way. She had that Mayan look, and I had tried to get with her before I noticed, and I knew they were friends, but I didn't know they were like besties or whatever. And so I kind of switched over, and I was trying to get with Christina, and she's like, "I can't. You tried to holler at my girl." I'm like, "But I didn't know," right? And that I'm gonna at the end of the story, I'm gonna end the stream. But yeah, so I was like, "Man, I didn't know." And she's like, "I'm sorry, I can't." She's like, and so one of my Spanish homeboys, Edgar, he was like, "Yo, let me write a letter to her, but in Spanish for you, and then you pass it to her and say you wrote it." I was like, "All right, bet." So he wrote whatever he wrote in Spanish. I didn't know what it exactly said. I was like, "What did you actually write?" I said, "You didn't write anything crazy." He's like, "Nah, man. I'm just." He's like, "It was just." Um, so he didn't do me dirty because that was that's what I was worried. I thought he was going to do me dirty and say something stupid in there because it was in Spanish. So I literally couldn't understand what he was saying. But he wrote it for me. I passed it to her in school and asked her, did she read it? And I don't know what bro wrote, but he was on it. Yo, he was on it. Like she was like, "Did you really write that?" Like she was like, "Did you really write that?" I was like, to be honest, I was like, I had some help writing it because I don't write I don't know Spanish, so it was I was like it was my I was like it's what I meant, and then someone wrote what I meant in Spanish to give to you, and she was like, it was so beautiful. I was like, word. She was like, yeah. She was like, what you said was really sweet, and she was like, she was like, if you didn't talk to Rosemary, I would say yes. I was like, God damn it. I was like, so whatever he wrote was on point. Whatever he wrote was on point. The boy did me a solid, and she was like, it was what she was like, it was really sweet, and she was like, what you said was beautiful, but she's like, you talk to my friends, so I can't do that. I look, I appreciate her loyalty. That that's some solid loyalty right there. But my thing is, if Rosemary wanted me, why didn't she tell me that she still wanted me? Because I didn't understand why she wouldn't get with me when I hollered at her friend. I mean, I got her number or whatever, and we hung out once, but that's as far as it went. We didn't smash, right? We didn't smash. I didn't even kiss her. Like we just hung out once, and I got her number or whatever. That was it. So I never understood why she would refuse to talk to me just because I hollered at her friend when we never dated, unless her friend still liked me. That was probably what happened though. That was probably the case, unfortunately. But anyway, so then it was so my third time with Christina. You know, I was I was I was persistent, if anything, not in a creepy way though. So we all, as a group, decided to go hang out. It was me, again, the boy Edgar, my our new homeboy who was like black and Filipino, but he spoke Spanish. He was like the only tall black Filipino I've ever seen. But anyway, uh, it was him, and then it was Christina. It might have been another person, but I think she was the only girl. So we all hanging out, and we were playing with the Ouija board at night um, during the weekend. And I was surprised because I told them I was like, "Yo, invite Christina to come with us." So she came. I was surprised that she came out, but she came out. So that showed that she did like me because she knew I was gonna be there, right? And so we were playing with the Ouija board. We even asked the Ouija board. It was like, should Christina go out with Amon? And the spirit said yes. um. So then the next day, my boy Tony was like, "So you gonna go out with Amon?" And she was like, "No, I can't." He asked my friend out. I'm like, "Are you serious?" So Tony was like, "Come on." He said, "You gonna disobey the spirit? You gonna disobey the spirit? You can't disobey the spirit." No budging, no budging there. But I tried. There was another one around there too, named Melissa. She was Puerto Rican, but she had a boyfriend. However, I didn't know when we were all hanging out that was her boyfriend because I was trying to shoot my shot. He was trying to be funny, telling me to shoot my shot, making her uncomfortable because he didn't tell me that they were dating instead of just saying, "Yo, that's me right there." I'm like, "Oh, cool, that's what's up." But she and I were good friends, so I was like, "Why not?" But just bad timing, bad timing. Anyway, that's the end of that story. So, um, uh, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Let's just scroll the stream real quick. It's at nap time. On what do you mean nap time? It's late. It's not nap time. It's time to go to bed. I don't even usually stay up this late because I like to get up early to work out and then do things with the wifey and stuff. Anchor baby. That was the term I was looking for earlier. Striker bandito. Thank you. Ball striker bandito. Funny name. Black Steve Jobs. I would take that as a compliment. I don't know if you mean it as a compliment, but Black Steve Jobs, I'll take that as a compliment. Haywood Pittman 5832 says U.S. Marine Corps 0311. That's what's up. David J 187 says America's a melting pot if you're not from here. Uh yes and no. Again, like I said, I considered America more of a tossed salad than a melting pot because we all retain our distinct flavors and our distinct looks, which as an amalgam, become this salad. But even foreigners, when they come here, know that we're not all the same. Uh, they know that some of us are black, some of us are white, some of us are Asian, and other things. So, but they know that we're all Americans. Jerry tells his life struggles are all different experiences. That's facts. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm gonna leave it here. Hope you guys enjoyed the seeing DJ Linda and my discussion. But again, like I was saying, I don't have problems with black immigrants from Africa, the Caribbean, or Latin America, neither here in America nor over in other countries. My issue is don't set yourself up as distinct from us and then consider yourselves black uh, because you want to ingratiate yourselves to the locals in those other countries who actually do like black American culture. So don't be from the Caribbean and then portray yourself as black in these other countries because you know that the locals like black have a fondness for black American culture or the women like black American men. Set yourself apart. I respect more the guys who go over there and actually say, well, I'm actually Nigerian or I'm actually Jamaican or whatever. That's cool. and also don't respect the content creators who go overseas and pretend to be black as well, because then when they get in trouble like Johnny Somali, then it makes it makes the black people who visit those countries look bad by proxy, because they're gonna lump us in with those low content streamers like him. Anyway, that's it, guys. If we can, you guys can continue the conversation in the comments, because once I uh, end this, this will be uploaded for live replay. Okay, that unless I get unless I get a copyright claim because of the music. Hopefully, I don't. We'll see. But that's it, guys. Bye. See ya.